Hello and welcome in, all you O9ers, PCHers, junior private detectives, maybe Fume Ks, and George Michael, too, for Life on Mars, the Veronica Mars rewatch podcast where we go through episode by episode. I'm Brenton.
And I'm Emily.
And if you can't tell, I'm pleased as punch about season 2, episode 16, The Rapes of Graf.
You know, it's not really an episode title one should say they're pleased about, but I understand.
Yes. The episode as a whole.
You really like Michael Cera.
I do.
Things that he's in.
I do. I also like Michael Cera.
My favorite portrayal of Michael Cera is in This Is the End.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Everyone's playing characters of themselves.
I forgot about that one.
I love that movie.
And he blows the cocaine in his face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Emma Watson comes in, steals all their food and water.
I forgot about that too. Man, I really forgot about that movie. I feel like because it was one of those movies that was watched a ton in a very short period of time. So I haven't watched it a ton since.
Yeah, I used to watch it when I was sad in college.
Makes sense.
Because you can't not laugh at that movie.
No, it's extremely funny.
It's dumb, but it's funny. And it wasn't like gross, like sexual. You know what I mean? Like usually it's like something, I mean, there's some weird sexist parts, but
totally.
At that time, it was one of the better of those.
Yeah. And usually it's when people do something like that, they then get clowned on.
Yeah, or reprimanded for it.
Uh-huh. Totally. Yeah, and everybody's in that movie.
Everyone's
Literally
in that movie.
everybody in that movie. Danny McBride's probably the best part. But I also like Danny McBride a lot, so.
Rihanna, when she clowns on them. I don't know. They had some great women in there.
Totally. But yeah, I like Michael Cera. I feel like he has a tremendous timing, so that's what always makes me laugh.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's got that internal clock, right?
Exactly. That's what makes him a natural percussionist.
Yeah, when you first showed me Arrested Development, which I mean, like before that, I'd seen Michael Cera. I'd already seen This Is the End, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, because by that time, had you also seen Superbad? Superbad had come out.
I don't think I've ever watched Superbad.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think I saw the title and I was like, sounds about right. I'm just going to ignore this.
Oh, no, yeah.
So I didn't get into dumb, funny movies until like basically This Is the End. And then that was like the only one I saw.
Oh. So the first one of those like Apatow movies was that I saw was Knocked Up. And I was like, oh, wow, this is really funny.
Oh, I've seen Knocked Up. I was thinking of the like Napoleon Dynamite level of stupid funny.
Oh, Superbad is more. This Is the End than Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh, see, everyone was like, "Ha!" and then everyone used Napoleon Dynamite as a reference point, and I was like,
really?
I won't watch that movie.
Oh.
It looks so dumb that I refuse. Like to this day, I will refuse. You could hold a gun to my head, and I would refuse.
Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah, it just looks so bad.
It is. Just like everybody's like, oh, everybody's like saying weird things. I mean, at the time, hilarious. But then, you heard it over and over and it's like, all right, let's.
Everyone quoted it a lot when I was in 6th grade and I transferred schools. And I was like, I don't want anything to do with these fucking losers.
Totally. Yeah.
Transferred schools and everyone's just as bad here.
Totally. Well, that's where Mac's originally from.
Mac from
the show.
This show?
Yeah.
At first I said Max, and I was like, your friend Max.
Yeah, he was in it. He played the love interest.
How did I not know?
Yeah.
Well, I'd watch it for Max.
Yeah, there you go. No, and even though I think that film, I would never recommend anybody to watch it now, it is remarkable that this random indie movie that this guy made with a few people for like small-ass budget and like off-kilter humor, like got that big.
My only true indie movie at that time was Juno. 500 Days of Summer, would that have been indie?
Yeah.
Okay, that too.
Those were, the few years after.
Those are my go-tos. Juno's just fucking amazing.
Exactly. Hey, Michael Cera, there you go. Bring it right back
That's
around.
okay. So I was going to say that would be, I wouldn't have seen Arrested Development, but I knew him from a couple other things and I couldn't think of anything. And then I was like, oh, Juno.
Juno. You landed back on it. Yeah. Heavyweights.
Yeah.
But yeah, always excited to see Maybe and George Michael in the show.
Yeah, I didn't know they went to college together.
Yeah, I know. Hilarious. Well, in the most recent season of Arrested Development, they're pretty much George Michael's at Hearst. So there you go, all same universe.
It is. Ooh, that's weird.
Yeah, I know.
Huh.
But
his name is Dean.
Dean, and then
He's not a dean.
No,
No one looks at Michael Cera and goes Dean.
And then Aaliyah Shawkat is oh no, it just went away. Crap. I've got it right here. Sorry. Stacy. No. So I was curious, and I'm glad I found notes on why they're in the show. It was like one of the.
It was passing.
Yeah, pretty much. It was one of those. Rob Thomas liked the show, and he's like, as soon as it got canceled, he's like, book the two of them, or like just book people from the show, pretty much. He met with Michael Cera, but did not meet with Aaliyah Shawkat, and Michael Cera was apparently a fan of Veronica Mars, and they'd even made a reference to Veronica Mars in season 3. Where George Michael alludes to some show, but it's like dubbed over, and the subtitle reads "Reference to off-network high school private eye drama censored by Fox." Great fucking joke.
That's amazing.
And especially we haven't really gone back to Arrested Development since like watching this, so I didn't ever pick up on that.
No, the first time we watched Arrested Development was because I had strep.
Mm-hmm.
And they told me that they couldn't give me antibiotics because I had them too recently. So they just gave me Norcos and said deal, which is, by God, the most student health thing I've ever heard.
Wow, like, just got to put her down.
You know what? She'll be fine. She's not going to die. It'll build her immune system. And like she had antibiotics this last year because she had some other weird infection. Oh, I think it wasn't the year I had mono because I didn't know you when I had mono. It's like having an STD. I come into a relationship and I'm like, by the way, I am an active mono carrier. Mononucleosis is the kissing disease. Mm-hmm. Do you know most people have mono by the time they're 35?
Damn, that's crazy.
Anyway.
I always wondered, just because of like, even though we put stuff through the dishwasher, but like drinking from glasses and things like that, because my sister had mono when she was in high school, so it's like she brought it into the house.
Oh, so you probably already had it,
right? Even though my mom was like super like on it about like washing stuff and
because you have it forever,
right. So I definitely had it.
I don't know. We'll have to everyone can you get tested for mono? I mean, they test it to like figure out if you have it. Because I went to student health 3 different times within like a 2-week period, and they're like, "We don't know what's wrong with you." And then finally, they sent me to go get blood work done. I had 102 fever, and I thought the phlebotomist was so hot, and I passed out.
That's tough when they're just because of the heat.
Yeah, it was definitely because he was so cute, and not because I pass out when they take my blood, and I had 102 degree fever.
Handsome phlebotomist, you know who we are.
Yeah.
So they're apparently both wanted to have characters that were more or less distinct, which, Michael Cera is just kind of being Michael Cera in the show, but I wouldn't say he's distinctly George Michael, so I think you can kind of get away with it a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's just like, he's like a lot more relaxed and tightly wound, but he's still like, you look at his dorm room and it's meticulous. Mm-hmm. And he's the tour guide. And then, unfortunately, Aaliyah Shawkat is stuck in the role of damaged woman. Even though the topic that they cover in the show is worth exploring, even if they more or less return to it next season. More on that in the future. And then also the return of Aaron Ashmore, Iceman, not Iceman, as Troy Vandegraff.
Troy boy.
Troy boy, welcome back. But he's good now. He's a gentleman.
If he was a real gentleman, he would have stayed to talk to Veronica, who he obviously still has feelings for, instead of going to hook up with maybe. I
know. Well, I read it that like he does have feelings for her, but he's like, I feel so bad, so bad that I could never
pursue this.
Yeah.
Oh, I read it as like I guess if I'm not going to get you, I'll just go hook up with someone else.
Gotcha.
That's usually how I read men in general.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I feel like it's been a fair assessment thus far.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But yeah, more on that in a bit.
Totally. We can jump right in to our essay contest.
Yeah, there's an essay contest, and if you win, you get to blow up Shark Stadium.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Is it?
The other part, yeah, that's pretty cool.
I hate that.
It's really cool.
I hate loud noises. I hate booms. I hate
Yeah.
kabooms. It's
But
exploding.
you're far away. And you get to pull. You get to push the plunger.
That seems dangerous.
Extremely dangerous.
Yeah, I shouldn't be there. I want to be at home. I want to be as far physically away from that as possible in case they fuck it up.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you are far away when you push the plunger. You're not like
no, I
in
don't
the
even
middle.
want to be in eyesight. Like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to be near it. I don't want to feel the ground shake.
Emily, push the plunger, and then we're all gonna have to run now. Please. But the other part about being his intern, Woody Goodman's intern, doesn't seem all that exciting. I'm like, you don't have to win a contest to be a politician's intern. They just want you to come in and do it.
Yeah, I kept getting recruited by David Valadeo when I was in high school.
I interned for my representative in my senior year of high school.
I refused because I do not support David Valadeo.
Yeah, I get it. My buddy was doing it, and it was I had to do an internship for an intern class that I was a part of in high school.
You were in an intern class? God, you fucking white people.
It's cool. So they gave you a free period to go do your internship. So I'd go do the internship, go there 2-3 hours a day, help mail stuff mostly, and then pass off emails. Yeah, it was a grand old time. Messed up on how to label envelopes. That's how I learned very quickly how you labeled the big envelopes. So yeah, good times. That's what I remember.
It looks like David Valadeo is no longer the representative for the town that I grew up in.
He got voted out last time, right?
California's 21st district. I believe so.
There you go.
I mean, I don't know if it's anyone better. I think it is.
There you go. Hey, good news.
I mean, you know, take that as you will.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. It's a Democrat.
Hey.
TJ Cox.
Good. Way to go, Cox.
California's 21st district. A little shout out to all of California's 21st district.
Woo!
All, 3,000 of you? I'm kidding. There's more.
Y'all know who you are. Make louder.
Make some noise.
Yeah, louder for the people in the back. No, they would be the people in the back, so make some noise. Mm-hmm. Oh, boy. Mm-hmm. So then, Wallace is then talking to Veronica about like, hey, we're going to go to Hearst College, which the only reason I bring this scene up is as a jumping point off of like, what is this trip they're on?
It's like a college tour.
And they get to stay the night there?
I think they come home and then they go back. Like it's a 2-day thing because it's local. Because that's what I thought it was.
Yeah, it seemed like they
went
stayed
to a party.
Okay.
But she came home that night and then she went back out. Because remember, it was like, he's like, aren't you supposed to be at your thing? And she's like, yeah, I'm leaving.
Oh,
I think the people in the dorms are actual students.
Yeah, no, totally. I thought when she came in at the end, are you talking about when Veronica comes back in and Cliff and Keith are doing the sting?
Mm-hmm. When they're watching the tapes.
Oh, okay. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
And because when they leave that first night, she turns to Wallace and she goes, I'm colleged out for the day.
Yeah, makes sense.
But before that, I think it's important to bring up, so Veronica has a brief interaction with Logan.
Yes.
And she's like, hey,
that segues into the next part.
Okay, like, did you talk to Hannah? And Wallace is like, how does that guy get away with so many things? And I'm like, because he's white, Wallace. It sucks, but he's rich and he's white.
And if he moves confidently enough, then he'll get away with a lot of shit. Mm-hmm. And he's smart enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's the scary kind because he's also smart.
Totally. So yes, that segues then nicely to like, you owe her an explanation. Yes, I owe her an explanation. I won't give her one. I'm just going to break up with her.
And that's Hannah.
Yes.
Logan literally goes, we can't see each other. I'm too bad for you. Mm-hmm. Which is why every good girl has ever then gone bad and committed a felony. Yeah. You know the amount of times some scrawny ass white dude looked at me and said, I'm too bad for you? Like, who the fuck do you think you are?
Totally.
You're so bad. I mean, in Logan's case, he is.
Like, the line in and of itself is bad, but in Logan's case, there is some validity.
But, like, for the average boy, you're not that bad.
No.
If anything, you're weak.
Totally. And what's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that. Own it.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. And then she's like, she calls him. She's like, oh, because they're all jealous. I'm going to be going with this senior. So that then led your credence to, like, you're being like, how old is she?
Yeah, I don't know how old her character is supposed to be, but I feel very uncomfortable with the energy that we have created.
100%.
Because I feel like she's got to be like a sophomore or a junior.
Yeah.
I hope not a freshman. She
Totally.
seems very confident to be a freshman.
Yeah, and obviously that happens in high school. But it is a little uncomfortable on screen here.
In hindsight, even like my sophomore year, I dated a guy who was a senior, and I was like, that still feels kind of gross.
Yeah.
Like in hindsight, like I'm like,
Totally.
there's a lot of developmental gaps there that are missing.
Yes.
Mostly on his end because very immature, but
Yes.
like it's weird. Or like even in college, like the seniors that went after freshmen, like as a freshman, you felt special, and then as a senior, you were like, these are fucking children.
Yes.
You creep.
Uh-huh. Yes. Yeah, no,
If you
not
are,
good.
yeah, no, I'm not saying that you can't have a gap of age in your relationship. I'm just saying it feels very predatory.
Totally. Rightly call it out.
Exactly.
Yes, we seniors are pretty gross.
Seniors are gross.
Mm-hmm.
They were gross.
Freeze it up. Yeah.
It's just, oh, God.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Made the mistake, and it's like, oh, God, there's a giant age gap here. This is bad. This is bad.
Huh?
Yeah. When I was in college.
Oh. I was like, what are you talking about?
Oh, no. Yeah, when I was in college.
Oh. Oh. Ew.
I know.
Gross.
I know.
Yeah, no, it only happened in reverse for me.
That's good. Yep. That's usually how it works.
Uh-huh. Creeps.
Yes.
Fucking creeps.
Mm-hmm. So we need to get this out in the open now so we can squash it for other people in the future.
Yeah, don't be a creep.
Mm-hmm. Solve it. So then we head over to Hearst.
Mm-hmm.
And we get our introduction to Dean, who's guiding our tour of Hearst. And
Yes.
who walks into our tour group? But Troy. Well, after nobody wants to pair up with Veronica for icebreakers.
Yeah, which is very unfortunate. And then it goes into the theme song, and I was like, well, that fits really well because, like, we used to be friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved her not dealing with Troy energy because he was like, yeah, I've changed. And she's like, I don't fucking care. And I was like, amen. And he's like, I see you haven't. And I'm like, no, bitch doesn't need to change.
Yeah. She doesn't owe you anything. You left. You went and smuggled drugs south of the border.
Yeah, you had some issues, dude.
Totally.
God, what a mess.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go over to Logan and Dick.
God.
Playing games and eating cake.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. Just real trade down there, Logan. And he's kind of realizing that. He's like, oh, God, I'm just like in this room instead of
Like with a person that I like.
playing Mortal Kombat with Dick as he eats the cake that she made that went all out. And it was cake that was a get out of jail free card with a file in it. And it's a pretty tremendous joke.
It's a pretty great joke.
All things considered, she went all out.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then we go back to Hearst, right?
Yep.
And we're at a party. Our tour's over for the day. We're at a party.
Mm-hmm. And that's when we see Maybe come gliding across the screen real fast. And it's like, what?
Yes. And then a guy from Sigma Pi, I don't know.
I think it was Pi Sigma Sigma.
Yeah, some sort of weird frat. He's like, yeah, you know how many points you are, and starts adding up points to Veronica because apparently in their frat they get points depending on how hot and what type of person or girl they hook up with. And it gave me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, no, intentionally he's being
creepy.
Yeah, the grossest. And
and that was like a thing guys did that I never understood. They're like, yeah, like you're hot, like you should want to hook up with me. And I'm like, you just said I was hot. Why the fuck would I hook up with you? Not the math here. It's
right.
It's not math.
Yeah.
You got a pie in there, you know.
No,
it's just a fucking mess.
Yeah, don't spit a number at a woman and like be like, "This is great, huh?"
So then Veronica
I
is
gave
like,
you a 250.
yeah, Veronica's like, hand me your drink. And he's like, okay. And so then she sprays it on his face. And I was like, yes. And then he goes to do it to her and she grabs his drink and does it again. And then Troy interferes and gets punched in the face. And everyone's like, he did a thing. How chivalrous. And it's like, he was just like, the guy grabbed Veronica. He was just being a decent human being. Like, how low is the bar, boys? Like, if someone grabs a woman in front of you, maybe tell them no.
Yeah.
Smack them. I'm like, I don't condone violence. I don't encourage violence, but like,
it has its applications.
Yeah. If someone grabs me and you see me trying to get away, please hit the person trying to grab me. I would appreciate it. You know, it's just a little common sense, but that's not how things work.
No.
And this is where the show really begins to take this turn. I mean, they already were leading to it so quickly, but it's like where women, it's like trying to talk about sexual assault, but it doesn't do it in a way that truly feels authentic or honors like the entire concept. It just kind of glosses over it as a plot point. And I don't like that.
Yeah. It's like a mystery sort of thing.
Well, I don't mind it. I guess like I don't mind it as a mystery, but like there's a difference between this and like SVU, Law and Order SVU. Like there's a very different energy to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I completely get it and feel that. And especially how this then wraps up with like a question mark on like who did it and stuff. And like the boy is vindictive, but not like that is like a weird line. That he would mail his box of hair to this woman who scorned him, but that he wouldn't actually be the person, I feel like doesn't accurately reflect it.
I feel like that, unfortunately, is a little too accurate. Like, you can be harassed by multiple men at the same time in different ways.
True.
But I don't... Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting... We'll keep going through the plot.
Yeah, perfect. Yes, so Troy there at the same party gets hit. Bam. Hits the floor. Two sounds. And then, you know... Veronica's just like, oh, and now you're also stupid. Like, you know, thank you for doing that. But like at the same time, like that doesn't change anything between this way. So maybe Stacy comes up and is just like, oh, here's an opening. Like this man like fell down on the ground and punched someone. Like, oh, he's cute. Yeah. So like makes her move and, you know, pays off. Good for her.
Yeah.
And George Michael is wandering around too. And he's just like, hey, cool. Hey, it's my freshman.
Yeah, like,
it's my tour people.
Hallway conversations.
Right. Yeah, because Veronica makes some joke about like how like it's like, oh, intellectual conversations like at college parties. And he's like, yeah, totally.
Yeah. And then Veronica tells Wallace it's time to go.
Yes.
They leave. And as she's leaving, that creepy guy is talking to another girl. So she tases him. And I was like, I literally would have like died in a good way if like some girl had just like some guy was talking to me and some girl had just tased him.
Yeah.
Like I would absolutely just like be like, can I come home with you?
Be just like the girl in the scene who like dies laughing.
Yeah. Cause it's just like, yeah, you creep.
Yeah. Tremendous payoff there.
Yep. And then we go over to the Neptune Grand.
Yeah.
Where Cliff is handcuffed to the bed.
He's at the Love Shack and shacked up. Can't leave.
He was there because the South Coast OBGYN conference, which is the most sued industry, had been happening in the Neptune Grand. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's...
He's four-dimensional chess, this guy, with his ambulance chasing.
Exactly. And so... he was there. He met this woman. They were going to have a nice time. Then they came upstairs. She tied him up and she stole his briefcase.
And thus begins the best pairing that we've ever seen for Keith undertaking a job.
Keith and Cliff going on a little adventure to figure things out.
Yeah. And Cliff takes a swig of morning champagne, you know, breakfast champions.
Exactly. So then in the morning, Veronica gets a phone call from Troy, and he's like, Veronica, please answer. I'm at, and then you can't hear it, but he's at the sheriff's department. Because maybe, whose name in this is Stacy,
yes,
had been roofied and assaulted after Troy had hooked up with her and left her in her room.
Right. Yeah, and had her head shaved.
And had her head shaved. Which is just weird.
Gnarly.
It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, yeah, I was the last thing she remembered, so they think it's me. And Veronica's like, if it is you, I will personally nail you to the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I appreciate that energy.
Right. Okay, I'm going to help, but if I find anything.
And then we go over to Mars Investigations.
Yes.
Keith and Cliff are watching the elevator footage from the night of of Cliff's
Rendezvous.
debauchery, really.
There you go.
It was yeah. They show Cliff in the elevator, the woman that he was with, and then we see Sheriff Lamb. And Sheriff Lamb is with none other than Madison Sinclair, Veronica's classmate.
Right. And we did forget to allude to that Dick said that he had been dumped by Madison because she
Had found an older man.
yeah. It's like, oh my God. Of course. Hey, police are awful. Here you go. They date high schoolers.
Yeah, it's just fucking gross.
So
then Veronica goes back over to Hearst. She visits Pi Sigma, and she's like, hey, I know this guy was supposedly a guy she was talking to at the party.
Gordon.
Sure. And they're like, yeah, well, he spent all night getting his stomach pumped because he had 18 shots of vodka. And she's like, how weak, haha.
It's like, damn, so it couldn't have been him.
And then she goes and finds Troy, and he's sitting away from the tour group, and she's like, why are you sitting over here sulking by yourself? You look even creepier. And he's like, why would I have done that to her? Like, if I raped her, why would I have left my name and number on her board? Like,
yeah,
you know.
because he remembers it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know, because sometimes boys decide that they didn't assault you. Like, you know, like there's a lot of reasons why you might have left your name and number. So you don't look creepy. Was it really your number? There's a lot of options.
Yeah.
I don't know if I trust him.
You don't think you did nothing?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of stupidity there.
Not the best alibi for sure.
So Veronica goes to go check the thing, and she runs into Stacy outside of her there, and she basically gives her like her sob story that like she was raped too. And Veronica is talking to her when then she gets a box. Stacy gets a box, and it's got hair in it, but it's not her hair.
Yeah, which is fucking worst.
Gross.
That's awful.
Yeah, the last thing I ever want is like a box of hair in general.
Totally.
Like,
yeah.
Please don't give me hair.
Even under the best of circumstances.
Yeah, it's fucking gross.
This is just like psychologically awful.
Yeah, it's fucking weird.
Like I know who. Like rubbing it in your face.
And then this girl comes up to her and Stacy, and she's like, she was at the party with Troy, blah blah blah. And it's like, Veronica was not there with Troy. She asked him to go away.
Yeah, that was
made me really mad.
It's like she was not there at all. Like he walked up to her. Are you referring to Wallace? He's a great guy. You want to talk about Wallace?
Who wants to talk about Wallace?
Yeah, I bet he's on the tour right now. We can go meet him.
So then Veronica goes back over to the Phi Sig's house. Pi Sig house.
Okay.
And then we cut back over to Keith and Cliff to bully Sheriff Lamb.
Yeah. Veronica first follows a lead. She's like, ooh, wigs. So we're going to try and find like a wig maker, like to try and see if we can track down like other women, because this is like a thing that happened to like other people other than just Stacy. So heads to the wig maker, and they make the show makes a big thing of like Veronica really like selling it, like she's gonna like get the Oscar this year. And so they even play like swelling music behind it. It's like she's like trying to tell this like in-depth sob story, and then says like it's her sister, because the lady won't give her the name, and it's like the girl who came in was Hawaiian. It's like, oh, okay, then walks out.
But she wasn't just like, yeah, she's adopted.
Right.
Or I'm adopted.
She couldn't swerve. She had done so much work already that her brain was kaput.
I guess so.
You know, it's one of those things that it's the overselling the lie.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's the too much information.
Yeah.
Then Keith and Cliff go over to Sheriff Lamb, and they're like, hey, what were you doing? Why were you with this woman? Because also you were in the elevator with this woman who stole my briefcase, and I saw you talk to her, and you know her. So they show him some pictures, and he's like, whatever, like, I don't know anything. And then they're like, you might want to come look at this one. And it's one of him with Madison Sinclair. And he's like, she's 18, that's legal. And they're like, yeah, sounds like a great campaign slogan. And I'm like, that's real weird, man.
Yeah, that is very gross. It's a very gross thing to say of like, she's 18.
This is a weird, the whole episode's got some weird plot points.
Totally. How old do you think Sarah Flamm is? 30s? Mid-30s?
Yeah.
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 It's gross.
Mm-hmm. Oh, damn it. Sorry I interrupted you for no good reason. I lost it.
Okay. Well, then we go back over to the frat house, and Wallace goes to get a tour and opens a window to let Veronica in so she can sneak into the basement.
Because she had previously stopped by Dean's room, and as she's going around investigating stuff, and learned that the frat ranks women on the point system, as she knows, but anybody that doesn't get like enough points is like punished and has their head shaved.
So she goes down there into the frat basement. She sees all sorts of gross things on their board, including one that's lying saying they hooked up with her.
Totally.
Which I'm like, who went through the effort of like printing all these pictures?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, how do you find one, gross that you have all these photos. 2, like a lot of effort to put that up. But also 3, this I think one thing this episode does do well is this is like the known secret because even Dean knows about it, like on campus sort of thing that they do this shit. That just goes like unfettered, like by like a wider like administration or anything until Veronica like shows
The
proof
photos.
that they're doing this.
Yeah.
But just like how much of this like kind of thing like just goes unreported and just like exists on college campuses and things.
Yep. So she goes into that frat basement that has it. It's a members only frat basement, but that's where the foosball table is.
I know.
I
So
have a lot of questions.
nobody, if you're not a member, you don't get foosball.
Also, I mean, I don't think I ever went to a frat house that had a basement. Or if I did not see it.
So I also wrote a basement in Orange County. Like, where would you have found this?
Well, but also a frat basement in other places tends to be where they party.
Oh, interesting.
You're in a
okay.
frat basement, like getting
Oh, that
drunk.
makes
You know what I
sense.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Would
Like,
that be like, because it would be harder for like noise pollution to get out kind of
I
thing?
don't know. Or it's just darker and creepier and stickier. It's easier to not clean up the sticky.
I guess that's true.
You just close the door.
Right. Yeah. There you go. I can only imagine the smell emanating from frat basements.
I want to throw up thinking about a frat house. But yeah, I'm just like, this seems like a weird set because there's like couches down there. I'm like, what are these parties you guys have? Like every
Right.
frat house I went into during a party, there was no fucking furniture, just tables.
They're like the oh god, the frat from the Bob's Burgers episode.
Oh, that's supposed to be beta.
Yeah, that are just like, we just chill.
Yeah, except they don't. These
No.
creeps.
They're the creepier version.
Um,
But I mean, in terms of they're not partying.
yeah. So yeah, she's like, oh, and cool. There's a picture of me on this board, and then she gets caught. And so she calls them all out and calls them all gross, and like they identify who they are with the nicknames that are on the board because they call each other that. So she figures out who's who and who did
Right.
what.
Iceman is one I think that she's like looking into.
Yeah.
That one stood out to me mostly because I just can't help but see Aaron Ashmore and then think of his brother.
Who's not in this frat.
No.
But yeah. So Veronica's like, cool. I'm gonna go now.
Right, and also sees that Gordon, the creepy guy, had his head shaved. He was like wearing a hat.
Oh yeah.
And like we're not, I don't know, just being annoying and a dick. And then back at the home, the apartment, Veronica comes back, and Keith is acting all weird to her. and is just like, oh, why don't you just go to your room? Because then an escort shows up, and so Veronica is ushers herself into the back. And so as she comes in and closes the door and asks Keith what he wants to do, Cliff comes out and gets her in a sting.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But you skipped Dawn. We meet Dawn before this, who is the girl who also was assaulted and had her head shaved.
We'll come back to it.
So Veronica, after finding out the wig, she's like, okay, it was a Hawaiian girl. So she asks Michael Cera where she can go meet Hawaiian students. And he's like, the Pacific Islanders Club, lunch club is like over here or whatever. Mm-hmm. She goes and talks to them. Asks the girl with pink hair where she got her wig, and she's like, this is my natural hair, you bitch.
Yeah, right call.
And then this other girl is like, hey, you might want to look at, and she's like, oh. And so then she ends up talking to this girl, and she finds out this girl was also assaulted. But Veronica literally goes like, hey, can I talk to you privately? And then she's like, hey, were you raped, basically? And I'm like, no fucking trigger warning, Veronica.
Right, no.
Good God.
Gotta softball these things.
Yeah. So she's like, well, it happened to Dawn too, and that would have been before Iceman's brother came back to the school. So we can't assume it's him, which means Troy Boy might be innocent.
I know. Who knew?
And then Michael Cera, Veronica reports it, and Michael Cera is like, hey, you got them a quarter of probation. And Wallace is like, look, you've made enemies already. You're gonna love it here, Veronica.
Yeah, you're right at home.
Yeah, he's like, if you come here next year, you already have enemies. You've done it.
Right. And Dean's like, you don't mess around, do you?
Mm-hmm. And then Troy's like, oh, like, he's wearing a really fucking weird outfit, like a striped shirt with like a surf tee. I don't know. It's a weird.
Yeah, some weird printed surf tee.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable. Just because it's ugly. And he's like trying to befriend her still because she helped him. And he's like friends. And she's like acquaintance with reservations. And I was like, fair. Fair. And then we go to Logan, who talks to Hannah and is like...
He waits outside his car for her to walk by.
And then he literally yells, your dad dropped his testimony so that I would quit seeing you. And she's like, and you want me to forgive you? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, you dumb bitch, run. Run!
She's like, well, okay.
Yeah. And so then Dad's escort arrives.
Yes.
They ask her why she took the briefcase.
Yeah.
She's like, I got a call. They're going to
Cliff
pay
comes
me
out, stings him.
triple the rate. So I gave this man your briefcase in the garage.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go back to Hannah and Logan, who have very inappropriate sexy time. They don't get anywhere. It's a very long-winded build-up make-out scene. And then...
We get cuts back and forth to people come into the room. And it's just like intense walk-up.
And
we
they
don't
have
know
a
who
key
it's
to
going
the
to be.
room, and it's her dad.
Yeah. And I'm assuming with the concierge or something, someone that works at the hotel.
Yeah. So he comes to get her, and he yells at her, and he yells at Logan. And I'm like, isn't it illegal to like enter someone's room without their permission?
I know.
But if she's underage, then like this whole problem. This is a whole problem.
Because he's 18. So maybe that's the like, oh, it's my daughter up there. So it's like, okay, then right away, sir. Up.
Yeah. And so then, yeah, that wraps that up. There's a nice little drama there. And then
I put melodrama set to 11. He yells at Logan like, pretty much, I'm gonna kick your ass if you see her again, and then takes her and jets out.
And then we cut back to Veronica and Keith. He's like, hey, if you go to Hearst, like, you know, be great. It's only 10 exits from the house.
Yep, 10 whole exits.
And she's like, I would like to go to the East Coast. I would like to get as far from here as possible. And what I have to tell her, and any of you out there, is that it doesn't matter how far you go, people still suck.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
But
I get the like, I want to get out of here.
Yeah, me too. I did it.
Yeah, I didn't apply to schools near me at all. Which would have been Hearst. I would not have applied to Hearst.
And so then we go to school. Logan's like, hey, Hannah's friends. Where's Hannah? And they're like, you didn't hear? She was sent to Vermont.
A boarding school in Vermont.
I was like, Ben and Jerry's and Bernie Sanders. What a weird place to be.
it seems so strange that that's how they wrap this up, that I'm like, there's got to be like one more episode to just like put the icing on this. But no, that was her last episode.
Yeah,
she's gone.
She's gone.
It's so strange to me.
And then we get Veronica, who's interviewing the people who are going to blow up the Shark Stadium.
Because at the apartment, she asks Keith about like what would be the practical purposes of C4.
Mm-hmm.
When would you use C4 in real life?
And he's like, blow things up.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's like, okay. So she goes to ask the people at the Shark Stadium like what they're doing and how they're doing it under the guise of interviewing them for the school newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
And Danny Boyd Fitzpatrick is working there.
Oh, yeah.
And
Suspicious, ain't it?
It is.
But she gets a nice introduction on what C4 is. And he shows them. And he's like, it's this. Not much to look at. Yep. Brings everything down.
Yeah, which I'm like, oh, good.
And I think they're outside Qualcomm Stadium, which is old San Diego Stadium where we went to the football game.
Oh.
That's where we saw the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's a lot of the exterior shots here.
That makes sense.
Around this time.
That's fair.
But yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. I really like that episode.
I like Michael Cera.
I think there's a lot of zingers in it. Even
Yeah.
if it is not a perfect episode by any stretch of the means.
No. I mean, there are no perfect episodes of
Yeah.
Veronica Mars.
Mm-hmm. It's messy.
It is messy. It's weird. And it's because it's a story written about a woman from the perspective of a man.
There you go.
Misunderstood girl.
Mm-hmm.
We're all misunderstood.
Exactly.
Anything else?
No. Yeah, I think about covered it.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, plugs.
Yep.
You can find me at butreallythough.com, though is spelled THO. I post life and career coaching content there over on my blog. I have all my offerings for life and career coaching sessions. Yeah, all sorts of good nuggets there. You can also find me on YouTube at butreallythough, on Instagram at butreallythough, but spell it BTRLYTHO. And you can find us on our other podcasts, But Really Though. A conspiracy theory, variety, tall tale, urban legend, stuff we didn't learn in history, whatever the fuck we feel like that week podcast, where we both basically write like a little report and share it with each other. Sometimes it's fact, sometimes it's fiction. Usually it dabbles in both. We like a heavy dose of skepticism. It's more fun that way.
Yeah, and you can find this podcast on Twitter and Facebook at Mars Rewatch. And you can also send us questions, marsrewatch@gmail.com. Always forget to plug that. And you can find me on Twitter at Pyle Brenton. That's Pyle.
Well, stay toasted, marshmallows.